friends, my name is Megan and welcome to episode 86 of a Naughty Mess Knitting Podcast. All right, here we are in the end of March. We're closing out the quarter. That's so funny because this is not a business, but it is kind of how my brain works also because it's a great checkpoint for the year for certain things. Like if you set some knitting goals, maybe you want to revisit. Quarterly is a great way to do that because a lot of things can happen in 13 weeks. So yes, that's where we are. I am rocking my newest finished object, which I'll stand up and show you and we can talk about it in a second. I have a bunch of whips to share. I have a new cast on. I have 2 new cast ons. I think that's true. And I've got some books to talk about, a spinning update, no acquisitions, thank goodness. And then we'll kind of talk about what we're going to do to close out the quarter. Plus today, I'm going to show you again, combination knitting, and I'm going to put in like a little short so it'll look a little bit easier for you to see what's happening, but that'll be the tip of the week. So if you want to hang out till the end of the episode. As always, I have my chapters at the bottom if you want to skip anything. I hope you have a really fun project to work on. Let's get started. So today I finished my Dolan. I finished this on Tuesday. I was actually done knitting on Monday, but I didn't do the bind off because I wasn't sure the length. And then I tried it on with longer needles in it just to see, and I was actually pretty happy with where it was. It was sitting per pattern. It's supposed to be 10 inches after the underarm, and the underarms are quite deep, so that was I thought that would be okay, but I wasn't sure, so it was kind of late. I finished to a wrong side row, which is where I had to end, and then I put it down, tried it on the next morning, which was a good thing, a clear headspace, and I said that's fine. So then Tuesday I just bound off. Yesterday I did a little bit of steaming, which I think did help here just a tiny bit on where this shoulder, it wasn't puckering or anything, but it just felt a little bit tight and now feels a little bit more like in pattern gauge. And I took some measurements. So let's talk about it. So for anyone who hasn't been following along this journey, this is the Dolan or the Dolan Coat from Taylor Harris, who is Taylor and Knits on Instagram. She is a designer who often works with Woolfolk. I don't know that all of her patterns, maybe all of her patterns are released through Woolfolk, but sometimes she does sponsored preview knits or other things. They did something a little bit different this time. Instead of doing a test preview knit that was all secret beforehand, I actually didn't start knitting until the pattern was released, and it was semi a test, semi a just preview knit with the people that were doing the knit along to make sure that feedback was clear, pattern was clear, etc. I didn't find any problems with the pattern. There was like one issue for one size that then was figured out. I did size down pretty dramatically. So it's supposed to be somewhere between like 10 to 18 inches of positive ease. Obviously, whatever you want. I decided to go for a size 3, which is a 52.75 finished garment. And it's hard to measure this because this is an open coat, so I'm not exactly sure where those measurements come from. I laid this on the ground open with no flaps overlapping, just like the flaps pulled back, and I got just about 55 inches of measurement. So I'm reasonably, I would believe I'm off gauge a little bit because I'm always a little off gauge with boucle. I did go down a needle size. The recommended needle is a 6mm. I used a 5.5 and a 5 for the initial start of the collar. That's the only piece that I did that for. I think you're just supposed to use a smaller just to start so you don't get a flare, and then the whole rest of the thing is in the same needle size. You do a double knit band. It's not a button band, collar, shawl, whatever. You do that at the same time that you knit the rest of the pattern, and so you're just using the same needle size. So that was supposed to be 6 for the pattern. I used a 5.5. I did use a 6mm because I did small circumference knitting for my sleeves, not the whole thing. Once I got a couple of decreases down, they're actually really wide. But I still went to magic loop. Anyway, so let's talk about the measurements after I stand up and show you the rest of it. I am wearing this also, if you can peek underneath. This is my color tip tee. Got a little pocket here. This is patterned by Emily Curtis, and it's one I made last year. It is my only, like, this one's short sleeved, but it's the only one I've made of this pattern. But this is kind of like one I just want to make like a ton of, and in all the colors. I would really like to have a tonal t-shirt version, and I think I want to have a variegated long sleeve version, which would be pretty easy to mod. And I might do a different neckline, maybe a slightly higher for one of them, maybe a slightly lower. I could V-neck this. I don't know. It's just a great base pattern. Okay, regardless, here we are with this jacket, which I thought this was just a nice color combo today. This is what I said to Mike last night, is I put it on for him after it was dried, the little shoulders, and I just steamed those with, you know, like I have a little handheld steamer. I said it's very editorial, and it looks like that in the pictures. I mean, this is not a surprise, right? I will wear it, but it does feel like it's too chic for me. Like, this is not, and maybe because I feel that way, like I feel like it is a little bit almost like frumpy looking, and you can let me know what you think of this. Like, how do you think this looks? It's so soft. It feels like the softest thing ever. And I think like the way that the like model wears it, and also this model is like very willowy, wearing like a super oversized thing, but she wears it, you know, I feel like it looks like this much ease, and also, even though I think it's more, but she like just wears it in the woods and like looks very chic, and I don't really have a lot of chic vibes in my life. So yeah, I don't know. It feels fine. It's cute. I will wear it. Where I'll wear it, maybe only in my house. I don't know. It is a coat though, so like I could very much wear this over anything that I have in my knit wardrobe, and just have this as an extra layer on a non-rainy day that's cold here, which basically is only January. So we're already past that, but it's chilly right now. Like, I could wear this over a t-shirt and be okay. I don't know. What do you think? I'm sort of undecided on if I'm just not cool enough to wear this, or if this is just like, it looks fine and I can wear this in public. What do you think? But I really like this like notched collar thing. Taylor Ann has this in a couple of patterns. It's very cute. And like the way it's sitting, okay, we'll look at the back. Like, it's sitting just sort of at my top of my hip, not quite at the fullest part of my hip. And yeah, the sleeves are big. They're big in the pattern. Like, this is not, I didn't just make them big. They are big. I probably could have ended a couple rows. Like, I did all the decreases and then I had like one row. So like, I probably could have ended them just a decrease early, or done a slightly more rapid. I think this is almost to pattern measurements anyway, but like, it just they feel pretty long on me. But again, it's a jacket, so it's like, you don't want them to be up here, because like, what if the thing you're wearing underneath is long sleeve? That would be awkward. But yeah, give me your thoughts and opinions. I don't know how to feel about this. Yeah, but let's talk about the making. It is warm. The jacket, not my house. My house is pretty cold. But it feels really cozy. Like, I could wear this around the house like a lot. Not what I do probably at night once Theo's asleep, because although she would probably cozy up with me on this, like we were like sitting on the couch, but she likes to like poke and play with all the things I'm wearing. So I wear like selective things around her, but regardless, let's go back to some of the measurements. So I got around 55-ish, although, you know, measuring open things, awkward. The length from body from underarm to hem is 10 inches, which is what's in pattern. The arm length is 18 inches, and total length from shoulder to hem is 22. So that tells you how big this armhole piece is before you get there. Like, and that's top of shoulder. So this has got a slope shoulder and stuff. I don't do it from the armpit. I do it from the top of shoulder. So that is a good length on me, like, to hit that butt area. Like, I know this about myself. So pretty good. I did not make any changes to the pattern while I was knitting. I didn't, other than like changing my needle size a couple of places. I really liked how she designed doing the double knit at the same time. It was nice I didn't have to pick it back up. I don't think that would work with all yarns, because this is so forgiving in the bulkiness, but for a lot of yarns that'll make your button band flare, you know? So I don't think it would work for everything, but it is a cool hack for something that's bulky. So again, this is the Flat Bulky from Woolfolk. It is 100% Ovis 21 Merino. It's 131 yards for 100 grams. This is the color 16, which I think is called Seafoam. They don't have color names anywhere but on the website. The gauge on this is 14 rows at 20 inches, and I think I'm just slightly off that, but it's so hard to measure gauge. So we'll just call it close enough. And I think more so when I got to like the joined in the body, but you know, not in the round, I think that like maybe just with that many stitches, because how heavy it is, whatever, then my row gauge is just a tiny bit looser than up in the top part, which is fine and made it go by a little bit faster. My sleeves are probably about the same then. Also hard to tell. So hard to tell. I didn't actually do a sleeve circumference measurement, but I think it's like 17 inches. Like this is pretty big, maybe even bigger than that. And this was gifted yarn, remember? So I was gifted 8 skeins to make this and did use 7.31. I do have like a good amount of one skein left. Not quite. Maybe it's more than half of one. Maybe it's just about half of one, but I have 2 from the sleeves. They each took like nearly an entire skein, but like there's a little bit of a ball from each of those. So I think that's where that difference is. But that is 900, and did I say this already? I'm not sure. This is 957 yards. And the pattern page just gives you like the number of balls you need. So there's not actually yardage, which that bothers me. But I mean, on the Ravelry pattern page. So inside the pattern, I think there's like actual numbers, but yeah, anyway. I'm within that because I think this size and the next size would both need 8 skeins. And I think I would be fine. The next size is not a lot of stitches extra around the body. So, and not really any extra length or anything. So all things considered, this is done. I'm done. I'm glad. Let's go through our quick rating system. Would I use this yarn again? Probably, but not for a jacket. Like I just don't think I would need a lot of jackets this heavy and bulky. Would I use it for something else? Like potentially, I have some leftovers. So I did that bulky mitten pattern from Claire Jackson. Like this would be a great use for another pair of bulky mittens, maybe for a gift for somebody. It's really, really soft. They'd be very nice mittens. Not actually the warmest or snow friendliest thing, but good for here in the Pacific Northwest if you just have like cold fingers sometimes and you want to take a walk with your pet or something when it's not raining. But so I liked the yarn. I just don't know that I would use it a ton. I'm going to say that for most bulky things every time we talk about it. Would I make the pattern again? Also, I'm very undecided if I even like it on me. I didn't have a bad time knitting it. It was relatively easy to understand. She does a very, like the way that she does the formatting is kind of like 3 columns. It just looks a little bit different than some other patterns you get, but like, again, easy to understand. Directions were not super long. There is a long version of this that has a pocket. And so there's like more parts of the pattern I didn't actually have to do. But so if you are just like not sure on the length, but you like the idea of this coat, there is a long version. It has pockets. It's also very cute on the model. I don't know, like it's just how I feel about it. I'm too basic for this. Okay. I just often know that I'm not cool enough. And that is okay with me, clearly. Okay, that's the Dolan Coat. Let's talk about my other finished object for the week, which is not an object, I guess. Finished thing is my spin. So this is my finished. I feel like this does not look like a lot of yarn. It is dense though. It didn't plump up as much during washing, thwacking, etc., which I didn't think it was going to because this is cotton. This is 100% cotton. This is the easy to spin cotton from 316 Dye Studios in the colorway, doesn't have a name. It was pink. I got it from Flock last year. Let me pull this down so you can see how lovely the ply turned out on this. It's really pretty. It's very like raspberry forward. There's a little bit of other colors in there. It's nice. It feels maybe a little bit damp still. I'm going to leave it out for another couple of days just to see if I can't make sure that it's like 100% dry. It's got that like cotton feel though. So like I can't tell because the cotton is cooler than wool. So like I can't tell if it is not dry or like if it's a tiny bit damp or if it's just that's what the yarn feels like. So I'm gonna leave it out a couple more days just in case. I don't want to just, you know, shove it into the yarn thing if it's not quite, it's 100% dry. So yeah, here's what I thought about this is finishing the rest of that second bobbin was so long, even though again, these were only I had two 2-ounce braids. And so this is 4 ounces about, not quite, cause I had some leftover, from one of the bobbins, and it is, plying took forever. It is definitely, let's see here. I didn't do any really measurements or anything for this yet, because again, this is like very freshly off the drying rack. But I would say this is like possibly a light fingering, very possibly a lace weight in some places. Yeah, so wraps per inch, this is definitely closer to a lace weight, but it's also like, just because it doesn't have that fluff, like I don't know yardage wise what it is yet either. Quite a lot, I think, but I don't know, like I could still potentially use this in a light fingering project, which so the idea that I wanted to use it for was a Vellicore. The question or issue I have, and somebody let me know if you know, obviously one of the answers is swatch and block it, but yes, I think I might use it, but for the Vellicore, it is, I think it's like a mosaic knit-ish type thing also. But I will have 2 other colors, and this bled like crazy. So I did wash it with wool wash, and I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have because it's cotton. I've definitely washed other non-wool fibers with wool wash, and they've been fine. This didn't bleed at all or like crock on my hands at all. So while I was spinning it, I didn't really think anything of it. And I put some wool wash, not a ton, because I have bars. So I just lather them a little bit into the water, into warm water, and not hot for this, just warm. And then I put this in, and I could see a little bit of pink, and then I pulled it out and I was like, holy crap, that's like the pinkest water I've ever seen. It was this like raspberry magenta color. Then I proceeded to just wash or rinse cold for a while to see if I could get it to stop bleeding, and it did not. It was still rinsing pink, like far less pink, but I didn't soak it in any cold water after that. I was also like pressed for time. Mike and I were going out to dinner, and yeah, so I rinsed it cold for a while, several minutes, and then I just like wrung it out. I rolled it into a dark colored towel, and I just hung it to dry. I've had other things that have bled, rinsed, not completely colorless water, and then worn them and washed them again later, and it didn't do anything. So I don't know if the dye settles. Anyway, if you know, let me know. Is this going to be super risky if I try to do like a super light blue or a white colored summer yarn, probably wool and cotton, with this for a Vellicore if this bled during washing? I can obviously block the whole thing with just cold, but I'm sort of worried because this still rinsed a color when it was cold. Am I gonna ruin something? Anyway, I can swatch, but if you know things, let me know, especially because this is not a wool, right? This is a plant fiber. Will I spin plant fibers again? I don't know. I like to spin them in conjunction with wool. This didn't feel harder on my hands necessarily, but like, I don't think it was as enjoyable as spinning something woolly because it doesn't have that spring. So it was that, you know, like how cotton has that like matteness when you're working with it that doesn't have as much spring. It's like, it really is kind of like that when you're spinning it. It wasn't horrible or anything. It was just maybe not my favorite experience. So I'm not saying no, I would never do it again. I'm just saying like, I'm not going to jump for more cotton right now. All right, let's talk whips now. I made some good progress on several of them. I did a lot of switching throughout the week, but I also felt like I spent a lot of time with some of them. Don't you love to spend time with your whips? Okay, here's the first one. This is the Checkerplate Sweater by Lily Kate France, who is Lily Kate Makes. I am knitting this as a sample. I lost the progress keeper, but I can tell you I was like, I don't know where on the body exactly, but I was a couple rows from splitting for sleeves. So like here-ish, which would put me like, I don't know, here-ish on the body. So I did good work. Did a really good work this week. I did not have a lot of rows left. Maybe like 8, 6 before I split for sleeve. So that went pretty smoothly. There were a lot of stitches there at the end because you are just doing raglan increases till the end. I mean, it was fine. And then I split for sleeves. You cast on a good amount underneath. It's actually just a pattern repeat so that you stay in pattern. And I got to join to like just continue, right? And I put a note on the Ravelry page for this, and I have not heard an answer back, but I just went with what I saw was happening. For this size, it seems like the main chart is flipped, so the wrong one is pointed to for this size, because I went to go do it and I was like, making sure that where the beginning of round is supposed to be, it doesn't really matter because you're doing the same pattern for both of them. It's just that the beginning round is in 2 different places for like half the sizes. So where I was for my beginning of round, it's like they're offset by I think like 4 stitches. It's not even like a in the middle or anything like that. So I was like, that doesn't make any sense. That's not the right place. Like I started doing it and I was like, this is not the right repeat. They're at the same, it's at the right round of the pattern. It was just the wrong chart. So I just like made a note and I asked, did I miss something? But because I don't think I did, I just went forth with chart A instead of chart B for a size 3. So that was like, it paused me for one night. I just, sat on it and I was like, I'll see if she answers, but also I'm pretty sure I'm correct. So let me just wait a day. If she doesn't answer, I'm going to just keep going. So I'm going and I'm staying in pattern. So I think that's all that matters. I don't think it really matters, like which chart is pointed to. So here we are. So, I mean, I've probably done, I've not done quite one of the chart repeats. They're pretty long again. So almost, maybe like 5 or 6 rows shy. And so I'll just keep going through. I'm on the 3rd ball of yarn. I'm a little worried I'm going to run out. I told Jess already. She said that she might need to dye some more. She will be in Seattle next month doing a drop spindle class at La Merceria. I don't know if they're sold out, but if you're interested or you want to learn a drop spindle or you want to hang out with Jess from Witchfire Fibers, go do that. She's super awesome. But yeah, so here it is. Lovely. So she might bring one with her and then I'll just meet up with her and grab the skein if I need it. I'll keep her posted. But I'm going to try to truck through this pretty quickly over the next week because I'm like really enjoying it, and getting it to the round has made the rows seem like a lot faster. As you can see, I also did the collar this week. This collar, like, I love a collar. As soon as I got it on, I was like, oh yes, I love this. So I'm going to try really hard, just also so she knows if she has to bring one and she has to dye it, etc., that I'll know. I have not been doing any helical knitting for this. I don't think it needs it, but also in pattern would just be a little bit annoying. Her consistency is pretty good, even though there is just variation in these skeins because it's not really it's a tonal. It's not like a solid. So there's a little bit of color change, but it's nothing that your eyes or the camera is picking up as like, it just round by round, there's like little subtle differences, which is actually really nice live. So it looks amazing. Let's go through details real fast. And then I will say for this coming week, I think I'm going to focus on maybe another, like a full repeat of body, and then with the 3rd skein that's joined, and then I'll join a 4th skein to do sleeves and see how much I can get from one sleeve. Again, I'm just doing it to pattern. I'm not gonna have to try it on or anything. And that'll inform me as to whether I think, like at that point, I'll know if I need more yarn. So let's go through details before I put this down. Just in case I think of anything else to tell you. But so this is a sample again. So this is a size 3. It's a 46.5 inch sweater. Recommended ease is somewhere between 6 and 10 inches. Also flexible because the chart is so big. There's kind of wonky sizing for this. And the chart it's like 12 stitches. It's quite large. I am using 4.5 millimeter needles for the body. I did use a 3.75 millimeter needle for the collar. Lily Kate kind of said she just tightens up her knitting to do ribbing. She has this like little sentence that she wrote in the pattern, and I was like, that's crazy, my friend. But she says just size down, and she put like some testers because you want the ribbing to be quite tight looking. You don't want a lot of space between. And so she said some testers found they had to go down all the way to a 3 millimeter needle. I didn't want to just do a 4 because I was on a 4.5. So I did a 3.75, knowing that my ribbing gauge is pretty good and often is tight enough. So, and I think this is perfect for the collar. Like, I don't think you'd want it much tighter, and you don't want it to be any looser because you don't want it to like flop out at all. So yes, that's why I'm still holding this. Okay, that is that. And then, oh, right. So this is a sample for Witchfire Fibers. This is her natural decay. It's 100% non-superwash merino, and it is such a lovely base to work with. I talk about this every time, but if you can see, whoop, there's a dog hair on there. If you can see it here in the skein, it's got like kind of a nice tight little, ply on it. It's really beautiful. The color is Coven Sister, and I just like, yeah. Super love it. It's like just a nice rusty color. Not one that I would typically wear, though I kind of like it. I'm going to try this on because this will fit me when it's done. Yeah, like this has got a little bit of that. I don't know. This is not really a color I could see myself wearing. The thing is, even though I like it, I don't know that I would grab it. These are the things, though it's matching my lipstick pretty well. So if we're going for like a kind of a neutrally, almost a brown, like this would maybe be the closest I'd get. So there's that. And I did wind 2 more skeins just so I could move on with that. And I'm really enjoying it as a project right now. Okay, the next one I have to talk about is my Salty Air Tee, which is a pattern by Samantha Guerin. She is Samantha Guerin Design. I've been making really good progress on this. So I have a progress keeper. I think I had just finished the lace and maybe not even split for sleeves. I just saw it. Where is it at? Oh, yeah. So I think I had just finished the charted lace. I don't think I had split for sleeves. No, definitely not. Oh, right. Cause I told you I didn't read the pattern very well. And then I had so much more to go. But yeah, so I didn't split for sleeves until this week. And getting back to just stocking it in the round without 3 million stitches on my nails was very nice. This has been my desk project for this week. And so I've got a good amount of body. I think I have like 6 inches done almost. Here's my sleeve split. And then I also went in and just did the sleeves. So I finished a ball of yarn. I think that's when I did it. Oh no, I think I got to like 4 inches, maybe. I mean, I also did a lot of work on this weekend. So I got to like 4 inches on this, and then I decided to, put in sleeves. So I just pulled from the center of my ball and I tried them on, and the pattern, these are not to pattern. So the pattern calls for like a couple of decrease rows rapidly, like you knit 1 and then you do some decreases and then you do the cuff, and that's it. So they are like more, not baby doll sleeves, but they're more like very short sleeves. If you want to look at these sleeves on this outfit, you can kind of tell like this is about the shortest I want a sleeve to be, just because I have large arms. I've got a lot of extra here, and I do not just, it's just a thing. That's my self-conscious piece, is I just like don't like to have my arms out very often. And I even with my super mom strength, which I gotta tell you, having a kid makes your like long twitch muscles so strong. I can hold her for a long time, and now she weighs like 30 something pounds. She's so heavy. But yes, so I prefer to have a longer sleeve on a short sleeve, and because this is such a breathable fabric, like this is not merino, I figured for a summer spring top that I would be able to get away with a slightly longer sleeve. So I just went with closer to what I did for my Tori U pattern, which is about 3 inches from the underarm. And then I did a cuff. It wasn't quite 3 inches. And then I did the 2 decreases that were called for in pattern. I just did them further apart. And then I did the cuff in a 1x1 rib, and it is just bind off in pattern is what you're supposed to do. And that's what I did, even though I could have just done a sewn bind off. With this yarn, I felt like that was actually the smart move to give it a little bit more structure because it's so drapey. And then I've been working on the body. So if I have like 6-ish inches, I've got about, I think I'm supposed to get to like, for this size, like 8 inches or 9 inches. It's not very much. But this is written as a cropped pattern, and I just don't think that I'm going to want it that cropped. So I'll probably just go. I've got this much of this skein left, which I did pull from the inside for sleeves. So it's not actually very dense, but I've got quite a lot of skein left. And then I have one extra. I don't want to break into the extra. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of monitor this, and I'll start weighing it when it gets a little bit smaller, and just see how far I can get. And if I get closer to like 9 or 10 inches, like 10 inches, and then still have enough for ribbing without breaking into the other skein, I will be good. But I'm going to try it on too, because I'll probably try it on like after I get another 2-ish inches. So like if I get close to 8 inches and then try it on, maybe that's what I'll want, because it does, again, I'm off gauge and the yoke is sitting a little bit lower than it is in pattern. Like it really goes to my full bust, the lace part, which is fine, because I was gonna have to wear a tank top under this anyway, or I mean, I don't know, maybe I'll feel risque, who knows. But I just don't want to have, if it's sitting a little bit lower in my armpit, like I don't need it to be super long, right? I just don't necessarily want it to be at the very top of my pants or whatever. Especially because if I plan to wear this in the summer more, I mean, I do have some high-waisted shorts, but my shorts are not as high-waisted as like my leggings or whatever. So, and this is the most summery yarn, so I definitely am going to want to wear this in the summer. Anywho, I think it's super cute. It's looking really nice. The color is pretty. The lace is looking rather scrunched. It'll obviously block out a lot, but it does look like her lace pattern. I just think that my yarn overs are quite wide, and I don't know, that's just like a thing for me. And maybe it's just I feel that way, but once you really put it on, that hole is not that big. So yes, there is my Salty Heir. Quite a lot of progress on that. If I'm really lucky, I'll be done with it this week. I'm not in a super rush because that's like, there's no deadline for that project, but I have started something else, which I want to give my time. And is that anyway. So sometimes you just got to finish the stockinette. That's why I did the sleeves as a break, because then I won't feel, there's no deterrent, right? Like it's just body to finish. It's probably what I'll work on while I edit, because it's the easiest thing right now. I'm gonna not talk much about this one this week because I'm feeling a little unsettled. This is the Crosshatch Hacked, and this is where I was the last time I showed you, so I have quite a lot done. This is a pattern by Jared Flood, although I've made kind of major mods to it, so there's no real pattern. But one of the mods I made is that I'm doing a 1-color, though this is a 2-color brioche, I'm doing a 1-color I-cord. And I'm doing that by doing 2 passes, kind of like how I did this, you know, like I just do 2 passes every time I do the black, pretty much. And I don't really like how it's looking. It's looking okay from here, and that's pretty much all that matters. I'm going to bring this to knit night this week, or knit group this week, but I didn't do a consistent thing for the, and I just feel like it looks really messy on the side here. It's like pooling kind of a lot. I just don't really love that. I don't think I want the 2 colors. So I think what I might do is I might recast on, just redo it. That's okay. It's not a lot of scarf done yet. And I might honestly, because knowing me, I have extras of all of these because it's going to be quite a long scarf. I might leave this or put this on like waste yarn just in case I change my mind, and then go and knit a new version and make sure I like that before I rip all of this out. Because I don't hate this, I'm just not feeling super satisfied. So I think what I might do instead is do the same thing, cast on the same number of stitches, though I might actually decrease this by like 3 to 5, because I just think it's like a little bit wider than I wanted it to be. Like I wanted it to be a little bit more like, I don't know, like this. Maybe that's even like 10 stitches. And this is going to block even a little bit long, like wider. Anywho, so I'm going to play with that a little bit, but I'll probably, yeah, maybe I'll decrease like 10 stitches. That'll also be nice because 10 stitches less is great. And what I'll do is I will cast on enough to have a 3, like a 3-stitch I-cord, extra. And I will put those on pins. So just like on like light bulb stitch markers on both sides. and I will not touch them. And then I will do this with a selvage stitch on each side. So maybe I just have to add one to the math, whatever it is. But do it with a selvage stitch that will change color, and that doesn't really matter. And so it will look as if it doesn't have an edge until I'm done knitting it. And then I'll go back in and I can pick up those stitches, even with, you know, like having a tail then. But when you pick them up and they're already existing, you just don't get any wonkiness at the bottom here. Like it will look really smooth. And then I will just I-cord up the side in the black, because I really like it with the black border. I just don't like how the actual knitting is looking. So I think that may be my fix. I don't have a brioche pattern that does that, so this is just like something I'm going to make up. I could certainly just do a 2-color, but I think I like how crisp that looks with that dark black border. Therefore, I will even more take this away from the pattern as it was written, but I'm going to do what I want, and that's fine. So TBD on that, and I don't know if I'm going to do that this week. This is going to just sit in timeout for a little bit, and that's okay. Okay, let's go on to my... Oh, and I'm skipping book club cardigan. I added 4 rows this week. Not exciting for you guys. Still working on the back panel. I'm 10 rows from even finishing the increases, and then I still have to do the bottom. So I said I was going to work on that more this week, but I got a little bit excited about something else, which I will show you now. And that is my gift knit for my husband, and this is the High Lonesome. It's a pattern by Caitlin Hunter. I am making a size 3-ish. And it's so cute. I told you I was probably going to finish the color work. You guys, I could not stop knitting this. It was so fun. It's so fun to see your hand spun knit up, but it's so fun to see it in like this format where I really get that like satisfying color changey vibe. I'm going to do one for myself because I just like can't. Not this pattern probably, but like I'm going to do a color yoke of myself with hand spun because I just love it so much. I had so much fun knitting it. I'm in love. Okay, so this is for Mike, and he is small. He wears like a size medium men's for most things, so I'm making him a size 3-ish, right? Which let me tell you what that's supposed to be, because I have a slightly different measurement in my notes. Okay, so the size 3 is supposed to be 38.5 inches in the fullest part of the bust. Mike is like a 37, and he wanted a little bit more room than that. So what I actually decided to do, and I said I was going to debate on how to do this week. So I needed to give him a slightly, and I maybe did like 2 rows more than necessary, but honestly, I think it'll fit really nice once sleeves are in. This was not quite, so I think you're supposed to split for sleeves right after the color change. I can't remember exactly, but something like that for the pattern. And that was not deep enough for his shoulder. Like, so his, you know, arm side distance is a little bit deeper than that, what was called from the pattern. I read through some of these, like I went through all the patterns I could find that were made for men, like all the project pages that were made for men that had notes. And this was a common thing, was that this was not a deep enough yoke for a man actually. And this is written as a unisex pattern, but I think she still used some unisex sizing, but not all of the measurements, like maybe more towards what would be the bust, etc. So I, simple fix, and that's a simple fix for a lot of color work yokes is, like circular yokes, is that you could just add some length. I wasn't sure if I was gonna need to add more. I was maybe going to add like 8 stitches spaced throughout. Somebody pointed out that like could throw off sort of the sizing and the shaping. And then I thought about this because I also then went back and I looked at the arm circumference, and that was where I was like, also a note. And for a size 3, it's just too small for his arm. He's got dude arms. He's got muscles. So I'm gonna make him almost a size 5 arm. I think it's almost a size 5 arm. I think it's like 2 less stitches. So I'm gonna follow the size 5. Sorry, I have a fuzz in my eyelash. So I might follow a little bit closer to size 5, like decrease counts and other things like that too. Again, because he's a dude, he also has like a bicep doesn't get more slender towards his elbow, really. Like he just has an arm, and then he has an elbow, and then he's got a smaller forearm. So I might also do slightly less rapid decreases, though with, I think, going up to a size 5, that gives him enough room that I could probably do regular decreases. I just may not I may not taper it quite as much as I think the pattern is written for. Anyway, so what I decided to do then, because I needed more arm stitches, is that I was like, oh, if I need a little bit more body too, I'm gonna just increase the underarm. There was only like 3 stitches added in the underarm for this, and I made it 8. So I added 5 extra stitches, which gave me plenty of space. That's 10 in total, so a little bit more than I think I needed for the pattern anyway, to give for a body. But then I think I need 2 extra stitches also for arms to get to what I want. So I will just pick up the corner stitches and add those in, and that'll be fine. Yeah, and so I've already done, then I did try this on him and it fits really nicely. It is like gonna be a little bit form-fitting, but like I think once it blocks out, I'll get a little bit more give and it'll be nice. But it looks really great on him. He was like, once it was on, I think he was like, whoa, that's really cool. Like the color changing. Like he saw it while I was making it, but he was like, yeah, that's like really cool. So again, I have a sheep there. So this is where I was last week, you guys. I had no chill. And I told him this like a couple times, I have no chill. I want to finish this so badly. So I did finish this the other night, and then I joined in the round after I sort of did a yoke try on barber cords to give me like the ability to pull into his armpit a little bit more and just like figure out. I think I'd done 2 rows after the color work was done, and then I was like, yeah, I think I just need like, it was a total of 8. I think I added 6 or 8, something like that. It was like an inch and a little bit. Yeah, and it fits really nicely. So I put this on him last night then too, once it was about where this is now. And I just wanted to see how that was fitting, like right around the highest part of his chest, and then about where I would want to put a couple of body decreases. I'm not going to do a lot. I think I'm going to do a total of 3, which will decrease me a total of 12 stitches, because I'll do it on each side, 2 stitches per. So it just stays equal. And maybe the last one I'll do just the front, not the back. But I'll see. So even so, 12 stitches will give me just 2 stitches less than the pattern of 38.75 or whatever I said the inches were. And he does want this to go all the way past his hips, and even with pants on, it's like a 32-ish waist. So you know, like it will sit, it will not be hugging him. It would be like, you know, around 38. I just don't want it to like feel like too flary at his hips, right? So I would rather just taper it a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do. I just finished, you see, no yarn. I just finished the first ball of yarn. I have 4 balls of yarn of this, so I'm feeling very comfortable, even with his long arms. He's got super long arms, that I will be able to finish just fine. So I think this week I'm going to join to body and get quite a bit more done, because I'm not going to try it on him again until I have most of both sleeves done. So I'm going to join to body, probably do each sleeve approximately where I want them, where I think they're going to be, and just hope that the tapering goes well and I don't have to rip them out. But he does not want to try this on 100 times. I mean, he has been a good sport about it, and obviously I'm making him a sweater. He's not complaining about it, but it's just not an activity he wants to do. He's like, I feel like I'm going to get trapped or I'm going to rip something out. He's just nervous about it. So that is fine. So I'm going to try to do nearly full arms. He's got really long arms, and I know this because I've knit him a couple of things. So I already know I'm going to make them closer to 21 inches. So seriously how long his arm is. So I'm going to like just knit past pattern anyway. Also, why I'll slow the decreases down. And once I get to where I think like maybe an inch from cuff is, that'll give me a, you know, really good measurement. I don't know that I'm going to get all of that done this week, you guys. I'm just telling you things. This is the things I'm telling you. Okay, so that's my high Lonesome. And then I have 2 new cast-ons. I'll show you the first one first, which is less exciting. It's still exciting. These are my April socks. Wow, April. So this is my April socks. This, I think I put the thing in here. This yarn is really fun. I showed it to you last week. It's called Tiger Belly, the colorway. It is a Graphic Dye Works yarn. It's 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. It's 450 yards per 100 grams. So a medium lightish fingering. And yeah, the base is called Step and Repeat. That's just like their sock base, which makes sense, right? Socks, step, and repeat. Okay. Yeah. So it's got a lot of blue in it. I will say a fun thing has happened with this, and this, you know, unpredictably, some things about working with hand-dyed yarn. I am doing the Comfort Core sock, which is like a 3 different sock option pattern from Summerly Knits. It's newish. I think it just came out like last month or the month before. It is supposed to mimic like an athletic sock. So these are part of my gift knits for the year for Mike's immediate family. I am doing this is his older brother, Matthew. So this is Matthew socks. And I am doing the A view, I think, of the pattern, which is a 2x2 rib until you get to the heel. And this is a longer-ish too. So I might not do it quite as long as the pattern said, but I'm going to do 6 inches. I think it's a 6.5, just because I don't want to knit any more ribbing. I'm at a roughly 4 and a little bit right now for both of these. I am doing the Charlotte method. So I have 2 socks happening at the same time. I went to Needles and Hooks, which is here in Seattle in Lake Forest Park. This weekend we were out grabbing something, and I was like, I need to go in there because I was using the Abbye turbos that I got from Sylvan in a 2mm size. I think that was the right move for these socks, especially 2mm, but those were like a short. It was like 32 inches. Fixed circulars, and that was just like too short for me. I need a 40. I just need more room for like how I'm comfortable with my hands. So that's why I went in and I just got 2 of them at Needles and Hooks, and it's just lovely in there. Anyway, here is the fun thing. I've got quite a different. I'm pulling from the outside for this one and the inside for this one, and we've got a lot of orange and a lot of blue. So that's fun. They still look like little buddies. They're just like pretty different looking, and that is quite all right. Maybe he'll pick a left and a right for this. So this is where I am. I'm hoping that over this weekend, I'm going to get heels done and not much else. I'm not in a rush. I'm ahead of schedule. The next pair of socks, though, are Mike's other brother, Mitch, and they are also going to be the same pattern, though I think I might do the View B, just is slightly different, still mid-calf sock for his, more because I have a mini to go with that one, and I just don't want to do that much 2x2 ribbing again. I don't even mind 2x2 ribbing, but maybe it's just on that really small needle, or maybe I just doing it. This is why I'm doing them 2 at a time, because finishing it and then like having to go through that mental hurdle of going back to all that 2x2 ribbing is hard for me. So I know myself, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just get all of it out of the way at once. It also is really nice. I think there's like this great sense of joy. And when you're doing 2 socks like that at a time, what's really nice is when you get through the gussets for both of them, that's the hardest part. Although this is nice going toe or going cuff down, is that I will do the decreases, but getting back into the foot, and then it feels like really smooth sailing. So that is also really great. Okay. Anyway, that is that. So I'll just let you know how those are going as we continue on with the month, and then just do another pair of them. And then we'll move on to another fun pattern. So the next thing I have on my needles is a new cast on also that is, I just started 2 days ago, and I got into another test knit. So I don't have any test knits on my needles right now other than this one. So I felt like that was not an inappropriate sign up. This is for Wool and Pine Design. I really love testing for them. I do think they have a bit smaller or shorter of test windows than I typically like. But for a t-shirt, I felt like this was doable. It is a fingering weight t-shirt, but I really love the pattern. And like, yeah, I'm making one that's pretty similar, but it is different. The motif is pretty different. And I really love some of the little details on this one. So, you know, I signed up. What are you going to do? And I wasn't going to sign up, actually. I saw the first part of the call, but they needed my size. And so, you know what? Sometimes you're like, it's meant to be. I debated a lot on what yarn to use for this. We got like the previews and the gauge numbers earlier than we got the pattern. And so that gives you time to do your gauge swatch and see what fits in your stash. And I debated between this There were actually like 5. There were like 5 yarns I pulled out. But one of them I pulled out was this one. And this is a Mad Tosh that is the same as that blue speckled yarn that I used in my Doppio last year. And it's pretty nice. It's a single. So I was a little bit hesitant, one, just because it's a single, but also because I was a little worried with this, that this is just going to look like drops of blood. I don't know. This is a weird thing that I had a thought about, but I was like, I don't know if this is right for a t-shirt. So I ended up not even doing that. I did gauge swatch with a single to see if I'd be able to use it, and I would have been able to. I got the right gauge going down a needle size on this. So I'm using a 3.25 millimeter needle for this wholly. I don't know that I'll even change size, maybe for the bottom ribbing. But I did for the cast on, but I immediately knew, because this is 26 stitches over 4 inches in stockinette, and I just have finished other things, different yarn than what I'm working with. But I was like, I already know, like for my gauge swatch, I'm not gonna be able to use a 3.5 millimeter needle. I'm definitely gonna be over gauge on that. There were a lot of people that sized down 1, and that was like fine. So I think that's like not unexpected, and maybe they'll make the note in the pattern, but as always, you should gauge swatch. Not that I do it all the time. Do what I say, not what I do. Okay, so I decided to use some really beautiful, this might look familiar because I guess I acquired it in December, though, you know, when we did our swap, I got another skein of this. This is Fantasy on Denali sock. That's 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon. It is nice and shiny. I kind of forgot that Denali sock has like a nice sheen to it. It's just a really beautiful green, tealy green. I don't know. I guess like this is more green than Nordlys. So this is like, yeah, it's pretty dark. This is like a dark teal. This is my color. So I posted the colors, like a couple of things I could use. And Selena answered on Discord. Like this is what I did in the Discord chat for this test. And Selena was like, I love a lot of these colors, but like, obviously that teal is your color. And I was like, you know me, you're correct. You're right. Okay. So I did also the gauge swatch in a darker color, not Fantasy though, but same composition. And I was like, yeah, I can still get gauge. So I'm going to do it in this. Anywho, I started. This is what I decided. It took me a while. I waffled and then I finally cast it on. This is like one of the details I really love about it is this little picot edge. Ah, it's so cute. Those are really easy to accomplish. They're just yarn overs, knit 2 together for a round, and then you knit the same amount, and then you knit 2 together. They did, the instructions call for you to do a provisional cast on. So I did a provisional cast on a barber cord. Maybe that's what they said in their instructions. Anyway, I did it on a barber cord so that I would be able to just string needle back through it, and then do a knit 2 together, right, for the cast on in your current row to do the fold over. And that was when it went really smoothly. I did that. The only thing I did change is I did that row, that knit 2 together, in my 3.25 millimeter needles, not my 3 millimeter needles, because I was worried that it would just be too tight. And I'm glad I did, because I think it's like a really nice tension on that edge. Then I did short rows, and then I started the chart. So I will have already flashed the small part of the picture. It's not the full garment up, even though we did get full garment pictures, but I think I'm not supposed to share those yet because they haven't been shared on Instagram or anything. So this is just like part of the lace that you can see. So you can see where I am, and that is like row 3 of lace. So yeah, you're right. It doesn't look like anything yet. But you can see a couple yarn overs there. A little bit of growth as the top part of that petal, and then it'll grow down to it's basically just one full petal, but there are some little bobbles on it, and those are going to be half double crochet bobbles, which is my favorite way to do a bobble on a knit. It's way easier, it's faster, it's less blah, and they pop up. They stay up on top of your fabric better, in my opinion. So I love that they're doing that. And yeah, we'll see how it progresses. I do think I love a lace chart. I love a color work chart. I love charts. So apparently that's the thing I do now. And I do think I'll get through this part of at least the lace piece relatively quickly. It is a long chart. since it's only one, there's no repeat or anything. It's just a really long chart. And part of the chart on both sides is part of what was charted were the increases. They could have certainly written the increases out instead of doing them charted. It's just, knit 2, make a 1, whatever, knit 5, make 1, whatever the thing was. But I actually kind of like that they did that, because that made it like a lot easier for me, because then it was like, knit straight for 5 rows or whatever it was, that I could just mark them off on the chart. I find that very satisfying. It also keeps me motivated. So I thought that was great. Getting into the lace part is only probably like 30 rows, maybe less than that, something like that. And then I think the rest of the chart is like, there's going to be some more increases to get to the full bust. And so that's all also charted, which is really nice. So again, maybe I'll finish the whole flower chart. I might not finish the whole chart, but I will get that done. I think I do have a tight-ish deadline. I think it's like mid-May. So there's like 6 to 7 weeks I think we got for this pattern. Not including the like extra week we had to like gauge swatch, get yarn, etc. So that's actually like okay, I think in my book for timing. So I am going to try to power through that hardest part, though the rest of the yoke, it's the most enjoyable and the hardest part in my opinion. So get through that and then move on. I'm making a size 5, which is 46 inches I think at the full bust. The pattern calls for like not a lot of ease. I'll put it up here, but I am just under, and I wrote this in a note because I just sent it like a DM to Selena when she put up that we need a couple more sizes, and I told her I prefer a little bit more closely fitting circular yoke anyway, and so she said that's great, and I could do that size. And honestly, some days that is what my bust size is. Sometimes it's 47. We'll see as we proceed what it looks like when it's on. So I'm pretty excited about that one. I think the thing I might do for that too is request to, again, just lengthen my sleeves a little bit, because what it looks like in the pattern is that they're also, after you split for sleeves, probably not a lot of rows, and then you just do the cuff, which is fine and totally a good option. They are usually pretty gracious on changes for like the small length customizations, just because they want you to be comfortable and happy in your knit, which is why I like to test it for them, because they're understandable, reasonable, and make really pretty things. So it's a very pretty design. Not that I don't have 107 teal knits, but I actually don't have a solid dark teal t-shirt, even though I just made like a heathered teal t-shirt. I feel like they're pretty different in color, so I do what I want. It's fine. So that is all I have to share for projects. That was a lot. That's a lot of projects. I've got a lot of things going on. I have a lot of things in a good place to work on relatively mindlessly. So still some 2x2 rib to finish mindlessly. The high lonesome, I'll just be able to get some body done. Checkerplate is not mindless, though it is very it's a half mind project, because I do have to know where I am in the chart, but like mostly I just have to kind of consult the chart for a second and then just do the rounds without heavily, I'm not absorbed in it. Salty Air will go pretty quickly. Yeah, so I'm moving along, have some good projects. We are month end the middle of next week, so we have 5 more days or 4 more days. I would really love to be done my Salty Air by the end of the quarter. That would feel great. I would also like to, after that is finished, cast on another one of my make 9, because I've made 2 so far. That's good. I have 9, so I need to finish 2 and a little bit per quarter. So it'd be really nice if just at least going into next quarter, I'm not waiting a long time to cast something on. I think for me, it may be for myself. So I have the Mike's is a make 9 for my gift knits. And I think that's only my second for that. So I'm a little bit behind on that one, but some of them are going to be small things for Theo. I might start a crochet thing for her soon, but I'm definitely going to, for me, cast on either my sea glass, which just because I think I need to do it. Otherwise I'm going to put it off forever. And remember, my Salty Air is from my make 9 for last year. So I think that's really good also to have that done. But that, or I may do something more quick and satisfying, maybe my color book Raglan. I don't know. I'll kind of assess how I feel after I finish the Salty Heir and like where I am at on other projects. Okay, so this is gonna seem like I read a lot of books this week, but one of them was sort of like an omnibus or whatever, so it was like 4 of a series, and it wasn't, they were all relatively shortish. And I needed something, actually it was a lot while I was doing the color work of this and some of the Checkerplate. I needed something kind of mindless, because I was reading 2 sort of fantasy things also at the same time. This is also like a romantasy. I don't even know. Let me tell you. It is romantasy because according to Storygraph, which is where I've switched over to most of my tracking. I'm still doing some of my tracking in Goodreads just so that as I'm clearing out some of my rereads to put into Storygraph for numbers and stuff. I've just decided it would be nice to support something that's not Amazon owned. And also, I know I've got a lot of history in Goodreads, but I uploaded into Storygraph. I deleted what I had done last year and just like re-uploaded so everything could be like accurate, and started tracking in there because I really love that I can track like what version I read. Like, did I read an audiobook or did I read it with my eyeballs? There's very little eyeball reading happening, but just so I could like, it's a thing to know. And also I really love the tags that happen in Storygraph, and like to be able to search for feelings of, you know, the feel of the book. So just letting you know that if you're on Storygraph and you want to know what my profile is, let me know and I can message it to you. So I read this week this 4 books of, it's like the Dragon Shifter's Mates from Eva Chase. It's a 4-book series. Okay, so this one is a wild thing. And I honestly thought it was going to be a lot smuttier than it was. And it really wasn't. I mean, it's definitely a part of it, but like, not what I thought it was going to be. Let me just give you that up front. So I'm going to just maybe put all 4 together so I don't really have to talk about them individually because I read them all right in a row. And I don't want to give you like a lot of series details because maybe you don't care. That's also fine. But this is, okay, the first one is called Dragon's Guard, then Dragon's Tears, then Dragon's Desire, and then Dragon's Fate. So basically this series is that there is a girl who does not know that she's a dragon shifter. She turns 21 and she had like been abandoned by her mother, or her mother went. She turns 21 and opens this locket that her mom tells her not to open until she turns 21. She basically like told her this and then said, I'm going on this thing. I hope I come back. Left her as a 14-year-old. She's like been living on the streets for 6 or 7 years, which like they addressed, but only like minorly. So it wasn't like that dark, that piece of her history, though it, you know, obviously shaped her. And then she opens it and immediately this like sends out a signal to her mates, and she has 4 of them. And so there's basically 4 types of shifters in this world. There's the canine, the feline, the avian, so dogs, cats, birds, and which is like wolves, leopards, hawks, and the other. And they're really called the divergent, or they're called something. Anyway, they're just the other. So like bears and basically anything that doesn't fit into the regular. Which is interesting as like a concept. And they each of those 4 have an alpha that leads them entirely, though like they don't all live together in a pack. They live spread out throughout the US in like pockets, because they all kind of get along, because they're all of 4 of the alphas get mated to one single female who is a dragon. Obviously dragons, blah, blah, blah. And they're the only dragon. And in order, this is the craziest thing. This is where it gets wild. And I thought they tell you this premise relatively early, but like the only way a dragon is created is if it's not the dragon female and one of the shifters, it's all 4 males. So as you can imagine what that might lead to for smut, not really in this book. That did not actually like, it was not very, there was some partner sharing, but it was just not as much smut as it was story. But the story was like, I don't know how to describe, not in a mean way, but it was like relatively easy to understand and kind of basic. And like, there was not that much politics. There's a lot of like re-explaining the situation because this girl's often confused going into the world, but she does like she didn't know that she could shift. She like, it's been suppressed like magically. And so like she learns she can shift. She gets some of her memories back, which is actually pretty horrific for her. She doesn't like have other magic than fire, right? But like, there are fae in here, there are vampires, and there's a lot of like killing. I don't know. It was fine. Overall, it was fine. The premise though, I thought was like pretty hilarious, and I definitely was ready for some more smut, but it was really not that smutty. So, you know, take that as you will. Totally fine. Okay. I then read, and this is why, because also this one was taking like, I don't know why, this felt like it was taking a lot out of me. I wanted to read other, maybe old, I think these are older, Ashley Poston books, because I think I like her writing style. And I realized that she had written some like kind of more YA-ish fantasy books. And this one is definitely YA. It's called Heart of Iron, and it's just a duology. I think I'll read the second one, but honestly, guys, I don't know that I loved it. The premise is kind of interesting and bizarre, and also maybe just the YA piece. Like, I feel like there was just like maybe too much explanation for some stuff, but also like just pretty immature characters. Yeah, and like how they're dealing with kind of heavy things, but like not in a bad way, like not more immature than their age. It's just, yeah, maybe I don't want to read about teenagers in this. Yeah, I don't know. So anyway, this one is about, it gives me very Anastasia vibes, just FYI. But it is about a girl who has no memories of her past. She was clearly injured in fire. She has like some scarring on her face and stuff, but she is like a space thief. They're like con artists, kind of like run some thieving things. I don't know. But anyway, it gave me like Firefly vibes also, like just being like kind of space cowboy-esque, like, you know, they run jobs or whatever. But the girl has, her companion is the thing person. I don't want to call him a person. He's called a metal. That was found with her in her escape pod. And his like serial number is D09, but she calls him Die. Anyway, and Die and her are like best friends. She's kind of in love with him. He is an android. It's an interesting concept. He certainly has the capacity for some feelings, but not really, like it's not written into his code. But he is very protective of her. Like there's little pieces of this. And then, yeah, just like a lot of craziness ensues, and his memory core is failing, and so she's trying to save him, and she'll basically do anything to save him. I don't know how I felt about it. It was interesting. The pacing was a little bit like all over the place, and the characters were good but juvenile. The plot was kind of interesting. I don't know. It was just like maybe a little bit weird. I think I want to finish the duology just because it's only 2, and I do kind of want to know what's happening. So at least there's that. Like there's enough interest there. But I feel also like the angst is going to be real in the second one. Okay. The third, or let's call that the first little series, the second one. Okay, the third thing I read was Dream Girl Drama, which is the third of the Big Shots series from Tessa Bailey. All of these are a little bit insta-lovey. I think that's like Tessa Bailey's thing, honestly. It's like a little bit of insta-love, sometimes enemies to lovers-ish built into that, but this one, not so much. This one's actually like, I both felt like, who cares for the issue that they were having, but also like so much angst and a lot of really good build. She's great at the build when she wants to be. This one though, you knew about these. So this is about Sig and Chloe. Sig is a teammate of the Boston hockey NHL team, but Burgess from the second book. So this is his teammate. And like, I think you knew that this was going to be, I think I knew that this was going to be the third one, because like there's all this unresolved angst happening, and you are seeing a little tiny bit of it from like Tallulah and Burgess are involved in this whole like love situation. But basically Sig meets a girl and like insta falls in love with her, and they like have a moment. And then they find out like 30 minutes later that their parents are going to get married or are engaged to each other. And then it's this whole like, she's super wealthy and that would be like a blight on her reputation and blah 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 if like she had a thing with her stepbrother. And I'm like, they're grown-ups, they're both like 20, 25, 29, like who cares? Maybe that's weird, maybe it's just like really weird in polite society, but like honestly, they've met each other in their late 20s. Like if they fall in love, who cares? It's not like their parents are old, they're not going to have children, it's not like they're going to have siblings that are, you know what I mean? Like I don't know, I feel like who cares? But it was this whole thing. And also like for the PR for the hockey team, like that would be frowned upon. And so they keep it PC for a long time. They don't give in to the temptation, but they do like, they're there for each other. They have a very like, basically they're dating without any physical things. And clearly both in love with each other, but like it's the can't moment. It's like the forbidden thing. So it was very angsty, but it was pretty good. I don't know, like if you like the Tessa Bailey formula and stuff, then I think this was a good one to read. Oh, the angst was real. And the smut, she's good at, the smut is very smutty once you get to it. It's just that it was a lot of build before. It's not like it's every chapter or anything like that. Then I read a way more smutty book that was also just really like, honestly, it was like 4 hours and 30 minutes. It was like a blip for me. That's like 2 hours and 15 minutes. It's watching a movie. It's called Sway. And I just needed something the other night. I was like reading Throne of Glass book 4, and I just was at a part that I felt like was kind of heavy, and I was like, I need a break. I need something like just fluff. And so this was relatively fluff for me. So I read the book Sway, which is part of like the Delicious trilogy. I think there's 3 books. And this is a Lauren Dane book. And Lauren Dane, I think maybe it was also called Cherished or something. Anyway, there might be 2 versions of this, like pre-published. She's done this with a couple of her books that they get published by a different author or different publishing house, and they've like changed the name of the book, which is very confusing. But this is actually set in Seattle. It's set on Bainbridge Island, and it's about an artist who meets a lawyer, and their like worlds are very separate or whatever, and he's older than her, but there's like immediate attraction, and then they start dating, and it's just like mostly smut, but them figuring out if there's like a future for them. And that's really it. And it's like, again, like really, really short. So I'm on or just finished book 4, which is Queen of Shadows from Throne of Glass. And this is the book that I would call like the first revenge. There's a lot of build up to this point, and it's the first pieces that you think will be big wins for the characters in getting some vengeance for against like the baddies. And then you find out there's worse baddies and you're like, oh no. That's really what happens. I feel like this is the discovery of one of the things I actually really love about this series is that it starts, and actually somebody asked this in the Discord this week, like, do they get better? Remember, this is Sarah J. Maas's first series. She wrote this really relatively young, the first book at least. And you can tell. I do think I think this, and you can have your own opinion. I think she's a smart enough writer that there's a lot of things that I don't think there's surprise Easter eggs, like stuff she had planted. I think her intention was to create a large world. Her intention was to give a lot of scope that's used later, just because I read the 4, 5 like sort of mini novellas that are all put together in Assassin's Blade, and I read that at the beginning. All of those pieces come back into play, and like I knew that because I know those characters because they come into like the 5th and 6th books, but the scope, like she was already pre-telling some of the scope, the things that this main character has to learn before she can do the big things and understand the consequences of how big these issues are, I guess, in my opinion. So this flip of the baddies is that you're like, okay, there's a bad thing happening in the first one, and then you realize at the end of that it's actually much worse. Bad things happening, and then you realize, and that happens in the second one, and then you go into the third one, which she's in like a new larger world where you're like, oh, this is maybe another bad thing happening, plus a lot of extra bad things are happening even in her old country, like in her country. And then she comes back to take vengeance. So this is the fourth one where you get some of that vengeance happening. And then also the problems are not over. And it's like the real, this is where the real stuff happens. So for anyone who hasn't read this series and is maybe interested in trying some Sarah J Maas, I definitely think this is a great place to start, only because I think you get used to her writing style as she goes into especially books like 3 and 4. That's where I think she like kind of really hits her stride. I like book 1 and 2 for the development of, it's kind of like, I think I said this before, Harry Potter does this too. Your first book, he's an 11-year-old, and it's written for 11-year-olds. By the time you get to the 7th book, that is a mature book with more mature themes, with more consequences, with more complexity. The same thing happens. You can grow up with Selena through this a little bit. And also this is like the 4th book is where you get a lot of the really good characters are like really coming into themselves. The 3rd one too, but I think more in the 4th book in just how they're going to be her court, which is really amazing and so epic, so good. And so yes, really enjoying the reread. I'm so excited. One of my friends who is reading this for the first time, and she did this series in the same, no, she did ACOTAR only, and then she's doing this, and then I want her to read Crescent City. I still think the order should be this, ACOTAR, then Crescent City, just as Sarah's writing style has changed. Also, like, the pace of Crescent City to me is, I think some people don't agree, but I think Crescent City happens really fast, and like way a lot happening. Is kind of like speeding these first 3 books into one, and so that maybe would be overwhelming for some people. Anyway, she just finished Tower of Dawn, and so has started Kingdom of Ash, which is the last book in the series. So I hopefully will catch up with her, and then we can have a nice conversation. We were chatting about it though. We went out to dinner this week, and that was really fun. Just chatting about it when it's fresh for her and fresh for me, and so yeah, having a great time. Okay, so let's go through some last things for the week. I will pop up here right now my little combination knitting. I didn't film it yet, so I will film it now sometime this afternoon, and hopefully it goes pretty fast, like it's a minute and something. But just to explain again, I use combination knitting to do all of my 1x1 rib. I don't really use it for more than that. Like, I don't think, because of the way that the twisted stitches, I think you still get some pulling and stuff when you do a 2x2 in this style. But I do like to do this for 1x1. It makes my ribbing really neat on both sides, and it keeps it more, like this, my tension is better throughout the whole of the ribbing. And I then find that, like, since both sides look similar, I don't like feel that thing, because a lot of people like their wrong side of 1x1 ribbing, and for me it doesn't look quite as neat as like the wrong side of a traditional 1x1 rib, because I think a lot of people's purl stitches are tighter, right? So that rib on the opposite side, the knit looking stitch is tighter and looks really nice. For me, it just looks pretty even. So for example, which I don't know what I'll use. I mean, I'm going to just use a swatch or something for the video. But for example, like this is my 1x1 rib on the right side in combination knitting. And this is what it looks like on the wrong side. So it's very, very even, looks very the same. And it's just like a fun tip. So I will go through what combination knitting is in the video. I'll talk about it. I'll show you with my hands where you can see them, just my hands. Okay, this is a hopefully super quick video on how to do the setup and first rows. Then I'll show you what it looks like, close up of combination ribbing. And that is generally something I think that's just done on, if you continental knit, so you hold the yarn in your left hand. Okay, so I have just done a couple rows of knitting. You can do combination knitting just when you start, or you can do it also, you know, for cuffs and stuff. So if this was the rest of your sleeve and you're in your cuff, you would just knit your first stitch, and I do have an even number of stitches here, and then you just pull your second stitch, your first purl stitch, as if you're going to purl into it, except for instead of purling normally, you're going to purl the opposite way. So you just knit one, and then you pull your yarn in the front and you purl the opposite way. And I'm going to just do that across, and I'll meet you back at the beginning of round to show you what that looks like. I have my knit stitch, which is going to be a regular knit stitch, and then you'll see that I pull my yarn to the front for that purl, but now I'm going to pull, let's see if it focuses here. I'm going to pull the back loop, which I'll show you in a second. If you do that again, I'm just pulling from the back to the front. And again, I'm swinging down instead of pulling my yarn over to knit traditionally. I'm just going to swing it down. Now, if you look at a stitch, it's truly just that this knit stitch, because of the way that I just flipped the yarn when I was purling it, is really just flipped front to back. There's no twist in it, really. And so because you're kind of doing two wrong things, you're knitting in the back and you're knitting the wrong way, you end up with a regular looking stitch on the back. So I'll do a few rows to show you what that looks like. Okay, now that we have a little more done, I'm just going to show you a quick half row, just so you can see that this like goes pretty smoothly once you are in a rhythm or used to doing it. It was really weird when I first started, and I was like not sure what to do, but I just flick the yarn back and forth as I sort of release the stitch, so that when I release the knit stitch, I just pull the yarn forward a little. When I release the purl, I pull the yarn back, and so forth. Sorry, I'm sort of creeping into the side of the frame here. Yeah, so it goes pretty smoothly, and I really like doing it for all of my knit things, all my 1x1 rib things, because look how nice that is. It's super neat. I just did a few rows. And if I flip it inside out, I'm going to flip it this way, you can see that really isn't very different. Here's the stockinette rows, and then the ribbing starts, and it really is truly pretty even on both sides. So if I flip it back in, if you block this out, you know, if you're doing a hem or whatever and you want to block it out, it has a lot of stretch, but it just looks really even the whole way. That's combination ribbing. Hopefully that was helpful to everybody. I'm gonna post that maybe independently also, just like so you could go back to it if you want to review it. But maybe I'll also make another like extra short one that's just like a reminder of how to do it in case anybody needs that. But yes, so I am yeah, working on a lot of things. Hopefully you're working on some fun things. Please let me know what they are. Also, thank you for everybody who posted your favorite desserts last week. I love a non-knitting related question to get to know you all better. That was really fun. Had some really amazing answers to this, like I think I've had most of the desserts people put down, but like certain things that like we don't have a lot here is like, I think a couple people actually who are like Southern Hemisphere friends, some Australian friends who put pavlova as their favorite. And like, that's just not a thing you see in the States very often, but also is delicious. And I have had it before, and so good. So love to see what people, you know, their preferences are. Yeah, that was fun for me. So thank you for indulging me in that one. But let me know what you've been working on. Give me your opinions on this coat. What do you think? It's not going to unknit it. I'm probably not going to give it away. Honestly, it's super comfy. So it's going to be like a really nice inside piece, but like, I don't know. What's your thought on the vibe? And I hope that you are having some really great knitting time in while you hung out with me today. Next week, we'll go over some stats. So I think that'll probably be the extra thing we share. I'm not going to do a ton, but I will do my flat lay color in. Okay. Let me know what you were working on. Have a really great night, day, week, weekend, whenever you're working or whenever you're watching this. I have so much fun seeing you. Oh, and also our knit hour is going to be this Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific. I have an invite event created in the Discord. If you are not part of the Discord and you just want to join for the call, you don't have to participate in the Discord otherwise. Just please see the link below. That's a live and active link to join us over there. If you want to chat, that's great too. I like to do Wednesday check-ins. People share their projects, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's really great to chat with all of you. So I hope to see you there live. And if I don't see you, I'll just talk to you next week. Have a good one. Bye.